Hi, thank you for being here. So someone sent me a video on tithing and giving, actually to look for my trouble. I'm sure you are watching now. And I'm like, can we still have this debate? I thought we were done. So anyways, I thought we'll take a quick look at this topic today. Now, we all agree that some of us see tithing as a biblical command that must be followed strictly, while others believe that giving should be done as the Spirit leads you and from your heart. Now, the Bible also mentions tithing multiple times, from Abraham's offering to Melchizedek, to the laws given to Israel, and even the words of Jesus Christ to the Pharisees. But what does tithing truly mean for Christians today? Are we still required to give 10%, or is giving more about generosity and your willingness? So let's take a look at scriptures that address this topic in both the Old and the New Testaments. So let's see if we can get something. We'll start with Genesis 14:18 to 20 and continue in the order in which they appeared. So Genesis 14:18 to 20, Abraham gave a tenth of everything he recovered on his return from defeating King Kedorlaomer and his 3 allies who had taken Abraham's nephew and his possessions. That's Lot. So Melchizedek, who was the king of Salem and the priest of God, blessed Abraham, and in return, Abraham gave him a tenth of everything that he gained from battle. Next is Genesis 28:20 to 22, which talks about Jacob's journey to Haran, where he dreamt of a ladder reaching heaven and angels were ascending and descending. Here God reaffirmed his covenant, promising Jacob land, protection, and descendants. Now Jacob was in awe of all these things that God did, and he made a vow to God that if God would protect him and provide for him, that he would worship God and give him a tenth of all he receives. Now Leviticus 27:30 to 33, this is one of the commands that the Lord gave Moses for the Israelites, that they should give a tenth of all their produce and livestock to God as holy. Now Numbers 18:21 to 28, here God assigned the tithes of Israel to the Levites as their inheritance for their service in the tabernacle, and God also said that the Levites in turn must also give a tenth of all these tithes as an offering to the Lord. Now Deuteronomy 12:5 to 6, 11 and 17. Here God commanded the Israelites to bring their tithes, their offerings, and first fruits to a place that he would choose for them, and he forbade them from consuming these tithes within their towns. This is also supported by Deuteronomy 14:22 to 29, where God commanded the Israelites still to set aside a tenth of their produce each year for a sacred meal, and the 3rd year this tithe is stored locally to support the Levites, the foreigners, the orphans and widows. Also supporting these verses, Deuteronomy 26:12 to 15, and that in the 3rd year they should also bring their tithes to the Levites, foreigners, orphans and widows, and after doing that they should declare before God that they obeyed his commands and then ask for God's continuous blessings. 2 Chronicles 31:4 to 5. Here, Hezekiah commanded his people to give portions to the priests and to the Levites so that they could devote themselves to God's work. And the Israelites responded by giving generously, bringing their first fruits and their tithes from the 3rd month to a 7th month. That's like 4 months. So Hezekiah collected all these things and stored them in heaps because they were a lot, and he had to appoint officials to distribute them fairly among the priests and the Levites, ensuring that everybody had enough to serve in the temple without facing any financial burden. This story is also supported by Nehemiah 10:37 to 38, Nehemiah 12:44, where men were appointed to oversee the storeroom for all the contributions that I mentioned were made earlier, including tithes, including offerings and first fruits, just to ensure that they were properly managed for the service of the temple. Now Nehemiah 13:5 and 10 to 12, Nehemiah finds here that the tithes and offerings meant for the Levites, they had been neglected. People had stopped paying, and that caused a decline in temple service because the Levites just simply returned to their fields. So he rebuked the leaders and he ordered them that they should bring the tithes back to the temple so that the Levites and the singers could resume their duties. Also Amos 4:4, where there was a sarcastic rebuke on Israel's religious practices, which included tithing. God sarcastically urged them to go to Bethel to go to Gilgal and offer their third year tithes and sacrifices. And God mocked their empty religious rituals. You know those children of Israel, they wear coconut head. They were very stubborn. Now, next is Malachi 3:8-12, and this is the famous passage about robbing God and the blessing of tithing. Here, God accused the Israelites of robbing him by withholding tithes and offerings. He then urged them to bring the full tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in the house. And then God promised to bless them abundantly if they are faithful, and that he was going to pour out blessings so great that they will not have enough room to store them. Now, going to New Testament, which talks about tithing in the context of generosity. Matthew 23:23. Here, Jesus rebuked the Pharisees for focusing on giving a tenth of their spices, but they neglected justice, they neglected mercy, they neglected faithfulness. God emphasized that they should have practiced all this without neglecting, they should have practiced giving without neglecting all the other things. Luke 11:42 is also similar to that as well. Jesus criticized the Pharisees for paying tithes on even the smallest herbs, but failing to show justice and love for God. So here God asks them to focus on weightier matters of the law while still tithing. Luke 18:12. Here the Pharisee in this parable boasted about tithing. He was saying, I fast twice a week, I give a tenth of all I earn. Just basically highlighting his self-righteousness. That was all. Then Hebrews 7:1-10. This verse discusses Melchizedek and Abraham's tithe and connected it to the priesthood of Jesus. That was what happened. Just mentioned Abraham giving a tenth of his spoils to Melchizedek, who was both a king and a priest at that time. It just basically highlighted the significance of Melchizedek's priesthood. So now if you look at all these passages and you put them together, what's the summary? So we would see that tithe was given either to support the ministry, which in the verses we see work at the temple, the Levites. They either gave to help the needy, to show gratitude to God by cheerfully and generously giving, more like a sacrificial offering, and it was nothing to boast about. People also gave because they trusted God to provide. And you'd notice that Israel paid multiple tithes yearly. They had festival, they had third year for orphans, for the widows and poor. Now, what's my opinion? Number one, nobody will go to hell for not tithing. Generosity is part of our work with God, and it should be done with sense. Do not ever give out of fear or compulsion. Another thing is the church will run whether you give or not. Duh. Then pick your church carefully, because I feel you won't struggle with giving if you are under your God-ordained spiritual cover. Now, all those of you that sing Abraham's blessings are mine, have you seen Abraham's workings? It includes tithing. So that should be yours too, Abby. How will I check this thing? Anyway, from conversations that I've had with people on this topic, some of us don't pay tithe, we don't help the poor, we don't help the needy. It's just us. Why now? Fine girl. Fine man. So the person that sent this video to me asked me a question like, does my church account for funds? Like, can members demand accountability? And I said, the church is not a public corporation that is required to publish their financials. People give freely and let God judge, since they are giving to God. Yes. So I know somebody is saying to me, you that you are talking, do you pay your tithe? Yes, I pay. I see my church organize crusades when they don't take offering. I see a lot of welfare packages. I see free buses. I buy petrol. I know how much it is. I see the cost of running the church, and nobody is applying pressure on me to give in church. Then I always ask myself, this pastor's ministry, who does it benefit? Is it just the pastor and his family? How about the sick that get healed, the oppressed that are delivered, and so on? Money is needed to do all these things. So I'll wrap up by saying, number one, let God lead you to your church. Give out of generosity and appreciation to God, which is part of our walk with God, not out of fear or compulsion. I pray that God will continue to grant us all understanding and the will to do right always. Now again, unrelated to this topic, I want to encourage us again, please, let's do our part in ensuring that God's light is out there that will preach the gospel, will spread the word, so that the earth will indeed be filled with the knowledge of the glory of God, just as the waters cover the sea. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.